The Community Legal Outreach Collaboration Keele, also known as CLOC, is a multi-stranded project that allows students and staff to collaborate on a range of educational, volunteering and research-based initiatives. We asked our first-year students why they wish to get involved with the project.
My name's Sam and I'm a first-year law student.
My name's Kanza, I'm a first-year law student.
I'm Stephanie Wharton and I'm a first-year student of law.
There's two reasons why I was interested in the legal companion role. The first one is helping people and the second one is experience. I currently volunteer at the Citizens Advice Bureau, and from that I've found that there are lots of people that go into legal situations unsupported, without advice, without knowing really what to expect. The second one, experience, is obviously I want to develop the skills required so that when I go out into being a solicitor, which is what I aim to do, I've got the skills, I've got the knowledge, and I've got what it takes to help people through those situations and give expert legal advice at the same time.
One of the reasons why I chose to study law was because I'm really passionate about making a difference and a positive kind of change within the community, and to help people that I think need more support and assistance. I think our legal system is fantastic, but it's not always easy to tap into the channels of justice. There's a lot of legal jargon, there's a lot of bureaucracy, and I think sometimes people get lost in that mesh.
Obviously I've heard about all the legal aid cuts because it's in the news a lot and it's talked about a lot in my lectures. And obviously with everybody in the country being either in a bad financial state or completely in a complete economically dire state, they don't have the money for legal issues, and the governments aren't providing as much money as they used to, even to those in complete, well, they call it absolute poverty, don't they? And it's important that there's something there that people can go to when they have legal issues, because obviously it's all about access to justice, and if we're no longer providing access to justice, it's hard to see how we can still have a fair legal system without that kind of access available. So it's important it's provided for all levels of society, and this is what CLOC seems to aim to do.
Hello, welcome to the Moot Courtroom at the Law School at Keele University. My name's Megan.
My name's Adam.
My name's James.
And we are all law students involved with CLOC.
The purpose of this documentary is to explain to you how CLOC works and to give you an idea of the activities and events that take place as part of the project.
To kick things off, we'd like to give you a brief overview of CLOC. Law students here at Keele have contributed to the design of this leaflet, which explains the three main branches of the project.
CLOC In is a community legal education project in schools and colleges on social and legal issues such as hate crimes, domestic violence, homelessness and citizenship, to enhance awareness raising and access to justice.
CLOC Works involves training law students as community legal companions. As companions, we provide assistance to our community partner organisations and also assistance to litigants in person in court.
CLOCwise is a collaborative social and legal policy research initiative to inform and critically analyse legal issues in the local community.
Our documentary will cover all three strands of the project, starting with CLOC In, the educational strand. Our long-standing Law in Action module has created the opportunity for students to work with partner organisations to deliver a legal education presentation to local high schools. On the 19th of March this year, 2014, Law in Action students delivered their presentations to Year 10s in Madeley High School. The focus was on domestic violence, sexual offences and immigration law.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Ajala. I'm a second year law student studying Law in Action, and we're here at Madeley High School, and we've just been speaking to Year 10 class, just informing them about domestic violence specifically, raising their awareness as to the causes, signs to look out for, and just statistics, just to get the information out there, because really it's not really publicised, and I don't think many people are aware of how serious the issue actually is.
Hello, I'm Megan Ryan Loughran. I'm second year law student at Keele University. Today, me and my group are at Madeley High School talking to the Year 10s about sexual violence. Our partner organisation is Savannah, so it's all about the law around sexual violence and asking them what consenting to, and basically a bit of discussion about what they thought the law was, and then we kind of showed them. We have a leaflet that we made which had some statistics in them and stuff. They're actually really well behaved. Like for Year 10 group, they were so mature, and they actually knew the law around it and stuff. So yeah, it was really good. I'm glad I came, and there's a lot to write about in my diary now.
Hi, I'm John.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Becky.
Hi, I'm Mohammed.
And today we're here at Madeley High School to teach the kids about asylum seekers and immigration, just because it's not something that they usually do on the syllabus. And we think it went really well. They were quite responsive with it.
Yeah, I mean, we had 20 kids in our class, and they were asking plenty of questions, and they were just really getting into it. And it's really interesting to see how much they actually know about asylum seekers as well, because their knowledge is definitely not as broad as what ours is now, but it's definitely a very interesting experience for me.
Yeah, to be honest, I did actually find it was quite an interesting process, to be honest, because generally with asylum seekers, I get the feeling that people think the borders are just open and they're just walking in across the border, when genuinely that is not the case. Actually, that's far from the case. In excess of 80% of applicants are rejected.
We smashed it.
The Legal Education Project has motivated our students to train as community legal companions. The companion role has been developed within the CLOC partnership on the basis of the Mackenzie Friend Principle, which entitles any litigant in person to be assisted in court. To become a companion, students must undergo intensive training in basic skills and competencies and professional ethics and values. The companions volunteer for a number of hours each week in the local courts and with our partnering law firms and third sector organisations to assist access to legal services and to provide support to litigants in person in court.
Hello, my name's Sue and I'm Chair of Voices of Experience.
And I'm Sharon, I'm Secretary of Voices of Experience. Voices of Experience are a local charity of women and children that have experienced and escaped domestic violence.
My name's Steve Kerwin. I'm Manager Director of Noel Mellor Solicitors based in Staffordshire. I'm also Chair of Resolution Staffordshire and Secretary of the local law society.
My name is Maureen Worrell. I am the Families Coordinator for the YMCA Relationship Services.
My name's Helen Anderson and I'm a social worker in the YMCA.
The Law in Action module helped to inspire the students to want to take action and be involved in problems within their local community. So the pilot Mackenzie Friend was started, and it developed into something that Voices of Experience didn't anticipate in terms of becoming the community legal outreach companion involving different professional organisations.
Well, before LASPO was introduced in April 2013, it was already obvious that we were going to see huge reductions in the availability of legal aid and that there would be a gap. There would be a large number of people who would have to represent themselves unless they had some assistance. And when we met, it seemed to be a good idea to develop the Mackenzie Friend role by helping to find a resource that people could use to receive information and assistance when they were involved in court proceedings, rather than having necessarily to attend on their own.
Since the demise of legal aid, which was last April 2013, we find many parents that are having to self-refer to us, where previously they would have gone through solicitors, and they are very often unaware of what help that the court system can give them. They're frightened, unsure, so the legal companions will very often come along to our centre on a Saturday morning and ask parents if they need some help, and help them negotiate the legal systems and take the fear factor away for them.
I think it's important that the students support women through the legal process, because a lot of the time you think that you're clear of the legal process. You take your kids to counselling, you have counselling, you attend all the courses, you move schools, you protect yourself, you surround yourself with people, you get rid of people who know your ex, and then you get a letter through the door saying that he wants contact, and then you're dragged back into the legal system where you know that your ex is going to be, where you spent all the time trying to keep away from him, and the fact that there's a student there that knows you and that is there on your side and can walk into court with you at your side is very supportive and makes you want to carry on with the legal system, because sometimes you feel that the legal system, you're fighting that as well as your ex.
I think the legal companion service is remarkably important and valuable to vulnerable people because they're approachable, and these people who are going through separation and divorce they're in a highly emotional state already, and they don't understand or not sure which way to go to get the best help. And the legal companion people are just there to guide them and nurture them.
Students who act as companions are expected to reflect on their experiences as part of our Employability Achievement Award. On March the 12th of this year, companions shared their experiences with students who visited Keele as part of a widening participation initiative.
Well, I came to be a legal companion through the Law and Action scheme, which is a second-year elective. So you get out in the community, you go do work with a partner organisation, and it sort of puts into perspective that law isn't just court work or contracts, it's something extra.
In terms of being in court, we try and get like 2 hours a week in court, and you also end up following clients into their own court proceedings. I'm currently with a guy involving his children, and he wants to see his children. And I've managed to meet a legal advisor, which is kind of like a judge, but without the judge title. I've met the judge, I've met the mother's solicitors, and I've also met, I think she is with Child Services actually, called CAFCAS. They do a lot of the children work. And the fact is, they're all happy to have you there. They all want you to be there to help out clients that otherwise would be completely lost and would be stuck without you, really. And that's one thing that's definitely very helpful about the legal companion role. You're not just helping the public, you get to actually meet people that you could possibly be facing in court as a solicitor, hopefully in the future.
When you complete the training, you'll go straight in and you'll be stationed in the local Crown or Combined Court, and you can hold a position there, and people will come up to you with a problem that you will be fully equipped to deal with. I really felt like I was making a difference to her case, purely because I was able to sit there, take notes, and give the woman the emotional support that she needed, as well as take notes in court for the barrister, who I was also working quite closely with on that case. So it's just things like this that you don't get the opportunity to do these things if you attend lectures or if you attend tutorials. So in terms of an extracurricular activity that you could get some real valuable experience out of, as well as contributing something to people that you're working with, definitely sign up.
Something, if you want to do it, and you can leap into these sorts of things at uni. I mean, you can, if you want to go onto the professions at any university, you will want to do what they call mini pupilages, or work experience at a solicitor's firm or a barrister's set. And you can do those as the more official things, but this is something different. I mean, this reaches out to the community, as we've been saying. That's the whole point. It's helping people who can no longer afford legal representation. I like being in court, and so luckily there have been plenty of people who have needed help in court, and you go in with them, you do sit there, take notes, be not so much a voice of reason, but you're there for backup if they can look at you and say, is there anything I've forgotten to say that I said to you earlier? And you bring up with it, and then you have to obviously work around judges who are very supportive in Hamley Court as well. You get your experience. Basically, it's all about the experience. It's all about building up not a reputation, but just building up your skills in court. And I think that's the most important thing about it.
So I had quite an emotional case where her children could be taken away from her, so she needed some support. So that came from just sitting with her, because you wait a long time in the court, like you're sitting waiting for things to happen. So sometimes it's just reassuring them what's going on in the background, like nothing's going wrong. Or sometimes it's just telling them what the barrister has actually said to them or what the court has decided, because they use a lot of language that isn't familiar to most people, especially people who are vulnerable. So if you just translate what they've said, I mean, the courts do their best, but they can't compensate for everyone. So there's a lot of explaining what has actually happened, and I think it's very beneficial to the people, because it's just a sense of comfort. It just makes them feel like there is someone there that understands them and can understand what's going on to explain it to them in their terms. There's a lot of transferable skills. So I've had to liaise with solicitors, barristers, judges, different types of clients. So you do develop how to talk to different people, and obviously when you're speaking to a solicitor, you're getting very different information as to what you're getting from a client. So I think it's a very useful experience to have.
I've partnered with the CAB, the YMCA, Savannah and various others, and I'm going to soon hopefully partner with mediation services as well. But those services have actually enabled me to really enhance what I do. I'm quite a confident person normally, but there's always that time where you feel a little bit out of your depth. And I think that by working with the likes of the ESA, I had to take charge. The receptionist at the ESA Assessment Centre was being quite difficult and the client was really distressed. I took charge, I phoned the CAB, I got advice, and ultimately it was a lot better for the client. That's something that if we hadn't been there, would be incredibly distressing for the client and it wouldn't have been resolved. So then they work with the YMCA. The YMCA have a supported contact centre, and ultimately the cases that we all deal with regarding child contact can be referred to them so the contact can actually take place there. So I've had a case where I worked and it was a 7-hour case. I was in court for 7 hours, helped a lady, and ultimately the father got access. But weeks later, it was a few weeks ago now, I went back to the YMCA and the father was actually there and I actually saw that the contact centre was working. The kids are happy. The mother came to collect the kids after. She says thank you to me. It's very, very rewarding and it does help.
My name is Jude Hawes and I'm the Equalities and Specialist Services Team Manager here at Staffordshire North and Stoke-on-Trent Citizens Advice Bureau. And we've now been working with the Clock Project since it started and we're very proud to be supporters of that. It's great with the work that they help us with, but the other thing about the project that is marvellous is that the students have been such impressive young people and it's been very exciting to work with them. It's been great to get to know them and they've been doing some really good work. Not just the students who are working on our part of the project, but all of the students who are involved in it. And it's also really good because I feel that those students are learning something about our client group and the real difficulties that our client group have. And whether or not they are students who then work with us or whatever, they'll then take that on with them into the rest of their lives, whichever part of the legal profession they work in. They'll have a greater understanding of the poor and disadvantaged and unwell people who make up the clients that we're getting Clock to work with.
I feel I've contributed the best to the legal companion scheme by using my diversity and my language skills to help those who come through the court door. For example, I helped some people who came through the court door because they couldn't navigate around the court because of the language barrier, and I helped them get to the right destination. And I've even helped some people who can't speak English properly, helped fill some forms in.
My best experience thus far as a legal companion has been sitting in and taking notes for a client who was going through a custody issue with Social Services of East Staffordshire, and I was able to help her by sitting in court and waiting with her until a solicitor came. I also offered moral support in court and took notes for her. And she was very thankful for my attendance in court and she asked me to come back for our final hearing, which lasted 2 days. And at the end of it all, she said that I really helped to settle the nerves and it was nice that I came along to help her, and I felt as though it also helped me because the solicitor at the case offered me work experience in all of it, and I learned more about childcare and family law generally.
I'll say it's all been a valuable experience, from especially going through the whole procedure, from seeing people coming into the court and seeing how terrifying it must be for them to be going through the court process and how much pressure they feel to get the forms right, and then sitting in with them at court in court hearings, especially most of it being contact orders, and just helping them through that and seeing, just taking notes and reflecting with them afterwards on everything that's happened and seeing just how much it affects them really. And sometimes people just come in wanting someone to listen to them, just someone to talk to. And I think the most important thing is that it helps them having someone there.
As a legal companion, it's been really refreshing to see how welcoming the professionals are in the court system. I'm currently with a client whose hearing has gone onto 2 separate tracks, and I've had a chance to be in a hearing with a legal advisor, and she was happy to have me there helping my client. The judge in the main case as well has also been very open about how much he appreciates legal companion support for clients in court. We have our partnerships with local solicitors have also been very friendly, but it's very refreshing to see external solicitors from other areas be so happy to have us in court and understanding of what our role is. and how important we are for the whole legal system.
It was particularly with the training that I learned how much the media portrays certain things in a bad light. So we did work with YMCA, and before I only thought that was a song. And then we did work with the CAB, who dispelled a lot of the rumours about benefits and what you hear in the media, or the negative portrayal. In regards to the Savannah training that we did, obviously I'm working more closely with them as my third-party organisation. It was really beneficial for me for my family law module in particular, because I did an essay focused on domestic violence, and so they're a domestic violence, sexual violence organisation. But it also helped me to realise the extent of hidden statistics, and how just because something's not reported doesn't mean it isn't a problem. So I think the major benefits of this scheme is that it's been a massive growing experience for me, and I've learnt a lot, and I feel I've grown up as a person and realised that the law is there to support the community.
The third strand of CLOC involves legal research and policy debates on community legal issues. One example of this is the note-taking project we undertook with the local Citizens Advice Bureau, looking at the impact of recent legal aid cuts on those seeking benefits.
My name's Simon Harris. I'm Chief Executive of Staffordshire North and Stoke-on-Trent Citizens Advice Bureau. Since April last year, when they introduced the cuts to legal aid, we've seen a number of changes, most of which are linked to the three losses that we knew were going to happen, one of which was the significant loss of service to clients, and about 1,100 people who had got specialist legal advice across a range of social welfare law contracts were not going to get that advice from April. On top of that, there was a significant loss of funding to the organisation, which we've had to work hard to try and replace. And the third loss was the potential loss of expertise. But because no funder has decided that they actually now want to fund specialist legal advice, and in particular representation at tribunal, we've had to rely on other types of project funding to try and patch together services and reconfigure a lot of our advice services to try and fill the gap in some way.
The activity that we've been involved with the CLOC project on has been within our welfare benefits team. For a long time now, in fact for more than 30 years, this Bureau has provided representation to people who need to appeal benefit decisions from Stoke-on-Trent and North Staffordshire. Now we're not in a position any longer to go with people to their appeal tribunals and represent them and put their legal case. We've been looking at lots of other ways we can help them, and that's where it's been great, because we've been able to develop this new activity using the law students from Keele to become note takers.
On that project, we accompany people to their work capability assessment to ensure that a good record is taken of the assessment. People who have been accompanied have by and large found that the healthcare professionals employed by ATOS have carried the medicals out much more effectively, have been much more thorough, and even though they don't like having someone observing, they have had to accept them, and as a result they've delivered a better service. As a consequence of that, more people in that group than we would have expected have actually had their benefit confirmed and haven't had the medical go against them.
Part of the CLOC allows us to work with different partners. For example, the Staffordshire North Stoke-on-Trent Citizens Advice Bureau. I've been working quite close with their benefit team, which has enabled me to take part in a note-taking project, which would have me going into ESA assessments and making notes, supporting the client throughout, which I feel has been very valuable. The most recent case I did, the client suffered mental disabilities, and I feel that I was really able to help him and relax him in the situation. I was invited by the Citizens Advice Bureau to contribute to their recent policy, which has been launched in a newspaper, and I was asked to write an online blog in reflecting upon the actual experience of the client with the official ATOS policy. In addition to this project with the CAB, on the 20th of March, we contributed to the Legal Services Consumer Panel fact-finding visit on the Mackenzie Friend. This visit shared professional concerns about unregulated and potentially exploitive fee charging Mackenzie Friends, filling the gap in the market left by the legal aid cut.
My name's Nick Hanning. I was a member of the Civil Justice Council Litigants in Person Working Party. Our remit was to look at the issue of access to justice for litigants in person, particularly because we recognised that with the cuts in legal aid there was going to be a huge influx of even more litigants in person than at present. And that's going to cause an awful lot of pressure on the court system, on court cases in the judiciary, and so it was important to take a look at what could be done to help those litigants in person and deal with cases more effectively, particularly from their perspective. That makes today exceptionally important from our perspective in seeing how Keele University has implemented a system of immensely effective collaboration with the local community and the court service to help litigants. And that's something that we're very keen to look at and take back as part of the evidence of how things can be done very much better.
The counter-argument to regulation is that the only reason that people can go to a Mackenzie Friend is because they can afford their services. Mm-hmm. And if you start to regulate something, you increase the cost to the Mackenzie Friend of providing that service, and their prices go up. So therefore, do you, through either the cost and inconvenience, drive Mackenzie Friends out of the market, or price consumers away from their services? And what's the sort of the balancing that has to be drawn?
I think one of the things that would concern me is if you don't have regulation, and I'm sure there are some excellent Mackenzie Friends who charge very reasonably, do a fantastic service, and would do nothing different if they were regulated. But I'm sure also, particularly with the opportunity, the gap that's just arrived in the market, and people who have looked at what's happening with legal aid and seen a way of making money, that there were people, for instance, who aren't even properly insured for doing this work. And so the amount that people could lose by things going wrong would actually be, I think, in some way, the risk that can happen could outweigh any benefits of it being terribly cheap. Because the problem is, although there must be some tremendously good ones who probably are very cheap, the risk is there are others who are really absolutely dreadful and who aren't necessarily cheap, or who are but are still dreadful. So I think it's a different set of weighing scales that I would be talking about than that.
I think it comes back to the basic question about what is a Mackenzie Friend. My kind of old-fashioned, rather naive attitude was a Mackenzie Friend was someone who did it voluntarily, who was someone who had a bit more knowledge, maybe a bit more experience, who would go along with you and sit there with you in the court, wouldn't speak, wouldn't represent you, but could kind of push you notes across the table if the judge didn't mind, and could sort of kind of stiffen your resolve during recesses and so on if you wanted to kind of hightail it out the building. Actually, what we're talking about here, if we're talking about people who are charging, is people who are offering a professional service. They're just offering a cheaper professional service. So I think that's...
And less regulated.
Yeah, cheaper and less regulated. If they're doing it voluntarily, then there's no need for any regulation. But it has to be absolutely clear that that's what the deal is, that the person is not offering any sort of... you're doing it almost like kind of one citizen to another. It's a kind of peer support system.
Mackenzie Friends, of course, have been with us for very many years, and initially they were genuinely the friends or companions of the litigant, and they've just gone along to provide some moral support. And as the availability of legal aid has decreased over time, we've seen a growth in the number of individuals and organisations providing this type of service, and the courts have given very clear guidance as to what they expect. These people are supposed to be providing moral support, helping people with their papers, helping them in deciding on cross-examination questions and things of that nature. My experience of some other Mackenzie Friends, particularly some of the fee-paying Mackenzie Friends, is that they simply don't do that. And I've certainly had a case very recently where I saw a client who had been helped by a Mackenzie Friend, to whom she'd paid a significant amount of cash whilst on benefits, but who would actually have qualified for legal aid for that particular case. Where Clock is different is that for the first time that I'm aware, we've attempted to set up a group of individuals who have some training in the court process. They've been familiarised with the courtroom, they've met some of the judges, they've seen how things work, they've had training from practitioners, they have an understanding of how to fill in the forms, what the protocol is, that sort of thing, which enables them to be far more effective as a companion, as a Mackenzie Friend if you like, but as a companion to the litigant in the courtroom rather than somebody who has simply gone along to provide moral support.
The changes to legal aid have had a massive negative effect to and on victim survivors of domestic violence. It's very difficult for many women to meet the prescribed criteria to be granted legal aid because you have to have the physical evidence. You're having to pay for medical reports. Women that have left everything behind, left their family and friends behind and had to re-establish themselves with their children, are starting from scratch, even trying to get enough money sorted for your bus fares, your phone top-ups. It's just really difficult. So any additional cost it's just denying access for those victims. So you're being re-victimised, basically.
Of course, the government's done a very good job of persuading the public that legal aid no longer exists for most cases, and that simply isn't true. There are many cases that do still qualify for legal aid, and the challenge that we have is how do we bring that to the attention of the litigant, to the public at large. And a very large part of the training that we deliver to the CLOC students is to make sure that they understand that legal aid is available, that they've got an idea as to the scope, they've got an idea as to financial eligibility criteria, and hopefully that they're then able to identify those clients who would still qualify for legal aid.
The Community Legal Companion Service has been cited in the Legal Service Consumer Panel report as an example of good practice.
The CLOC project facilitated our voices being heard and being involved in the parliamentary debate about the changes to legal aid in 2013, which is something that we would never have envisaged at all.
I think that the CLOC partnership is enormously important. I like to visualise it as a face of the clock. You've got three hands on the clock. You've got the big hand, the little hand and the tiny hand. Now, if you imagine that the big hand is the judge and the court system, and then the little hand are the CLOC team, and the tiny hand are the parents that are running frantically here and there, not knowing where to go. Now, the little hand of the CLOC team, actually gathers up the parents and nurtures them and makes the big hand, the court system and the judges, seem and appear less scary. Not by doing the work for them, but empowering them to do the work for themselves, guiding them, not telling them or dictating them to them, but guiding them so that they know that they have the confidence enough to approach the judge and to state their case.
I think it's been a real game changer. The students have benefited massively from listening to true stories from real people, real experiences. They are going to benefit and become better and more committed and dedicated lawyers, barristers, judges, solicitors, people within the justice system themselves in the future, which is what we need.
So that was an overview of the CLOC project.
The project will be moving forward in our three key areas.
We look forward to collaborating with other law schools.
To roll out community legal education so other students can become agents for change.
To deliver the Community Legal Companion Service to assist litigants in person in regional courts.
And to develop a national research hub to collate and share data on access to justice.